Hi everyone. So if I were to ask you, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment in life so far? Or what would you want your greatest accomplishment in life to be at the end of the day? Your greatest win? Something that you're most proud of? Is it earning your first $1 million? Is it owning that fancy car? Or just stocking up on material possessions? American philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest achievement." And this is one of my favorite quotes, one of which I hold dear too. But what it doesn't tell you is that following someone else is really easy. Following the crowd, being like someone else, just emulating someone else, that's easy. But being yourself, now that's incredibly hard. Because you don't only have to genuinely like yourself, you also have to shut out the noise and the pressures of the world to stay true to your path. And more importantly, you have to be confident and believe that you are enough. So 13 years ago, a couple of my friends and I came together in school to sell our pre-loved clothes online for extra pocket money. 13 years ago, I guess perhaps most of you here haven't even been to primary 1 yet. 13 years ago was also before the Instagram, before iPhone days. And we really just wanted extra pocket money. So we came together, sold our clothes online back then, which was really just something that was new. And after a while of doing that, we ran out of clothes to sell. We decided to use the money that we had saved to go overseas during school term break or the weekends to import clothes to sell. While doing that, we realized there was always something that was not right with the pieces that we brought in. Be it the material, the fit, the color, the quality, there was always something that I wish I could change. So in my final year of university, with no fashion background, no business background, I decided to drop out of school to start the business. Here's the tricky part. Because I was bonded to the government, I also had to fork out a 5-figure sum to pay off the government to start the business. And the extra tricky part for me was that was the same year that my dad went through bankruptcy. My elder brother, the year before, went to missions, and my mom was already working 2 jobs to support the family. Obviously, I didn't have the sum of money to pay off the bond to start the business. And the only way I could get the sum of money was to ask my mom for help. I remember going to her to take a loan from her. And she was really worried because back then, that was almost 10 years ago, online shopping had really just begun. It isn't like what it is today. So I remember her asking me, "Is this something that's legal? Will the government come after you?" And the amount of money that I needed to borrow from her amounted to her entire life savings. But she decided to take that leap of faith with me. So that was how the journey started for me. And that was also one of the reasons why I knew I couldn't fail. I couldn't let my mom down. And in the early days of Love Bonito, in building Love Bonito, and in running Love Bonito, I struggled a lot with my identity. Because I dropped out of school, I didn't know what's a good leader, what's a bad leader. I haven't fully discovered who I really am, who I'm not. So I struggled a lot with my identity. And I postured to be like other leaders that were around me. I compared myself consistently to those around me and wondered, why am I not like that? Why am I not succeeding like that? Why am I just wired so differently? The media then also really glamorized leaders like Steve Jobs, who ruled with an iron fist. And so to me, then I thought, okay, the only way to be a great leader is to rule with an iron fist. And so I tried. And it was out of character for me. I tried so hard. I didn't like who I was becoming. The people in my company also found it very weird. I postured so hard. And at the end of the day, I just wasn't happy and comfortable with who I was becoming. It also really didn't help that every year when we would do personality tests like Strengths Finders, that's one of my favorites, please check it out, to discover more about ourselves, how we're wired differently, all my strengths and all my results will always come out overwhelmingly skewed towards the soft skills like communication, positivity, woo, relator, includer. These are things that I felt, to me honestly, I was ashamed of. And I thought to myself, as a leader, where are all my hard skills? And year after year, when we did all these such tests, my results will always be the same. I'm high on the soft skills side. And I started to belittle my strengths. I honestly felt like a clown. It wasn't until one day, after many years down the road, after one of the tests, one of my staff came up to me and she said, actually, Rach, what you have is not what we have. I must have been really looking very defeated that day for her to come up to comfort me that way. But as simple as that sound, it really hit me hard that, hey, maybe we're all meant to be different and we're all meant to succeed differently. And so I decided to read up on my strengths, to intentionally discover more about myself. I spoke to mentors, I spoke to the people around me. I decided to ask for feedback about myself and my strengths and weaknesses. It was a tough time, going through the self-awareness journey, and I'm still learning and discovering more about myself. One thing I realized was that when I started to embrace and accept the gifts that I'm gifted with and work on them and use them and lead with them, I found that I became more fulfilled. It was almost like I became more confident because I found my purpose. And so that was how it was for me, my journey. And I'm still struggling, but I'm getting stronger every day. I think one of the key things for me is also remembering that at the end of the day, the battle is not between you and someone else, or you and your competitors, or you and your peers. The battle at the end of the day is between you and your mind. The journey in building Love Bonito has been about 10 years, and I'm pretty happy with the progress that I've made as a person growing through this journey. It's been really hard. It's been really tough having to confront the best and worst of myself, but I'm glad that I'm learning to stay in my path and to bloom where I'm planted. So, at the end of the day, for me, I realized also that I needed to develop some skills and some tools to help me in this journey of strengthening my mental strength. Which brings me to a story I remembered. Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you can't, you're right. I believe and I've learned that most of the battles are won or lost in our minds. There was one day when I came home from a terrible, terrible day at work. It was really a horrible day at work. And I came home late at night. I slouched on my sofa and I was just throwing myself a pity party, just wallowing in self-pity and replaying the failure that I've had. And then my husband walked out of the room and he said, what's going on? And I said, don't disturb me. I'm throwing myself a pity party. Just leave me alone. I've had the worst day of my life and I just want to sulk. And guess what he did? He said, okay. And he then proceeded to take out his iPhone, set on a timer of 15 minutes, and he said, when the timer beeps, you have to snap out of it. As silly as that sounds, that is something that I am continuously using right now to help me snap out of negativity. So I used to always have to hit the snooze button 4 or 5 times before I would force myself to snap out of it, physically, emotionally, and mentally. But now I know I'm getting stronger because I no longer have to hit the snooze button and I go from 15 minutes to 14 minutes. So that's a real good trick. And trust me, it helps because you feel like you have addressed the issue, you have given yourself time to mourn. But we all know that at the end of the day, we need to snap out of it and move on. We can't wallow and dwell on it for too long. Other things that I've developed and habits that I've developed to help me to reframe the internal dialogue in my mind was really, I would paste in my bathroom mirror, I would paste like affirmations and positive quotes and verses all over every day. So while I'm brushing teeth, I'll be reminded of it and I'll meditate on it because it's so important what you feed your mind, right? And also, I will make it a point to, every day when I'm getting ready for work or whatever I will make it a point to listen to podcasts, to feed my mind with the right positive messages before I go out there and the war begins again. I think this is an internal daily habit that all of us must practice, and it really, really helps. The truth I've learned is that it doesn't get any easier, but you get stronger. For me, I guess at the end of the day, what does success really mean? Success to me is really discovering who you are. And all of us are created with a very, very unique and special purpose in life. All of us are gifted with different abilities, and all of us have a different superpower in life. Success has different routes, and it's different for everyone. As Ralph Waldo Emerson said, the greatest accomplishment in life is to stay your path, be yourself, stay true to yourself, and bloom where you're planted. Success is not just about earning your first million or your 10th million or living in the largest house. Because what good is it for a man to gain the whole world but lose his own soul? So, in this journey, I hope that you take the time to discover, embrace, and accept all of yourself. And at the end of the day, know that you're meant to be unique and different, and that's how you're meant to succeed. Thank you.